And that is why I'm grateful for my background, not only as an actor, but also someone who wanted to pursue concept design, because I can look at the makeup, at the silhouette, and kind of break down the movements, the gestalt, like they're posing. I kind of have to give myself as much backstory as I can in my head, and that's where the storyteller comes in, the writer. So I create like a whole biography while I'm in the chair, and I'm talking like 3 hours, 4 hours, sometimes longer. I have time to figure out who this character is, and I also get to collaborate with the artist. So I get to ask, like like what do you think their history is, or even something technical like does the makeup buckle or like crease at a certain way, and should I avoid making a certain expression? Should I not go like should I not do that face? Should I not go? I need to figure out what I am allowed to do and what I ideally should not do to maintain the illusion that this is an actual creature and not a person wearing all these prosthetics. So there's that. When I get a script, though, I break it down. So I just do a first read and I get an impression. And then I do another read and I take notes and I do my actor's homework, like something that I think is really cool that Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger, had said is some useful information is to find out what other characters say about you, whatever you're playing. That's feedback. So I do little things like that. I take notes, and then obviously, depending on the role in the production, I end up having a meeting with the director, sometimes the writers, and then the producers, and maybe a stunt coordinator. And I just start getting all this feedback. And then, especially if I have a makeup effects artist working on me, they have their own information as well. So it's a process. I have my own take, I have my own pieces that I bring, and then someone else brings more pieces to the puzzle, and then another person, and suddenly it really becomes a village. It takes a village to raise this character from the ground up, from just the script to something concrete and living and breathing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a special guest. She's been involved in quite a few productions, quite a few movies, such as Nightmare Alley and a few others. Please welcome to the podcast, Samantha Rodes. Samantha, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
And thank you for being here. Something that I love to do is really just dive into the creative universe of each guest. And I've seen a bit of your bio on IMDb, so I'm excited. So that being said, I did mention you have an IMDb. I mentioned a couple movies, but let's put that to the side for a moment. And something that I like to do is kind of, explore the journey of each guest. So we really see you have a love for creativity. But when did it all start? What sparked an interest in being creative?
That seems like an innate skill. I was just born. It started with me just loving to draw, loving to act certain scenes out, whether it was with like my plastic toy dinosaurs or me putting on a show for like my little sister and cousin. I just was always this creative, expressive child. So that's the origin story of it.
And did you know which direction you wanted to go? Like, for example, a musician, maybe as a kid, maybe they had their first piano, or for a painter, they have their first paintbrush. Was there something early on, or maybe later on, which kind of gave you a focus into which direction you wanted to express your creative powers?
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a domino effect where it started where I have an aunt who's a writer and an artist. She would do all these cool sculptures, and her works were actually in an art gallery at one point. So I think I was about like 8 or 9 where I was exposed to that, realizing like, oh, that's something you can do for real as an adult. But then that kind of transitioned to me growing up watching Pirates of the Caribbean, the movies, and seeing the featurettes, the making of, and thinking, that is the adventure of a lifetime. How do I do that? And then from there, I pursued different mediums. So I was studying concept design because I love to design like characters and monsters, especially, and then taking acting classes for mostly theater and then film. And then finally, the next domino was finding my niche. What do I do within that that's different than everything else? And for me, I was getting a little disenfranchised because I was tired of being cast to play like these kids. Like, you're going to be this like teenager doing drugs, or you're going to be this whiny little sister. I didn't want to play that anymore. And I was thinking, maybe acting's not for me. I don't like any of these roles. I wanted to be badass. I wanted to be like Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider. Like, I wanted to like kick ass and look awesome while doing it. But I'm 4'9", so they're also like blew my chances of ever being a Bond girl. But I realized that I have a thing for characters that are not human. And what kind of proved that, the next domino was I was asked to play Samara, the little girl from the ring, at my old elementary school's haunted house. And I was in high school, but the teachers remembered me and they called me in because they said, hey, our little girl, she got sick. You're still petite. Your hair, my hair at the time was like almost down to my waist. So they didn't have to get a wig. They said, could you play her? And for some reason, instead of me just saying, yeah, I'm going with it, I rewatched The Ring and studied the performance, however brief it is, and I got into like the physicality of it. And then I realized, like, I want to do stuff like this. And then the next domino was, there's a documentary online called Men in Suits that interviews these actors that specialize in suit performance, where they're putting on prosthetics or all of these appliances or suits to play monsters or anything that's not human that requires this radical transformation. So I'm talking about actors like Doug Jones, Brian Steele, Doug Tate, Misty Rosas. Like, I could go on and on listing all of these brilliant performers who are still active in the field today. But that was like the domino effect, realizing like the spark was just in childhood, and it kind of progressed as I got older and finding my little niche, my corner of creativity.
So you think that when that elementary school, or was it a teacher, or was it like, who was it that came up to you and said, hey, we would like you to?
I was in high school when my old elementary school teachers like reached out to me and said, hey, yeah, we need someone to play Samara because the little girl that we, had doing it got sick.
Do you think that experience of like her reaching out kind of gave you a little bit of perspective as to, like, because it brought up like a curiosity, like, oh shit, like I want to watch The Ring, and then, like, as you said, you were studying it. If you didn't have that experience of, being asked, do you think you would have ever really had any interest in that direction?
No, I don't think I would have. Like I said, it was like a domino effect. One thing after another kind of like progressed. And it all really started with me being asked to play Samara.
And was that, I mean, I haven't watched The Ring in a long ass time. It's been a while, like, man, like what, 25 years now? But what I do remember is, like, is she the one who comes out of the TV?
Yeah, the one who crawls out of there, or the well. That was her.
Okay. Are those body movements, were those movements hard for you to repeat?
Not really, no, because I, like, fun fact, I was already like pretty bendy, but just for mental health, I had taken up yoga. And there's a pose called Dharurasana, or wheel pose, where you're literally doing a back bend. And me being goofy, I thought, oh, I can try to crawl around like the girl from The Exorcist. So I knew I had this natural kind of like capacity to be very flexible, because people have asked me, are you double jointed or are you just naturally? And I want to say it's a bit of both. I have a good baseline for that. And as long as I'm consistent, I can take that to like these advanced levels. So that more or less is how I was able to kind of study and be able to like emulate Samara. And I also want to credit the performer who played her, because there's two actually. You have the actual little girl, but then you have a petite woman who is a contortionist named Bonnie Morgan. So shout out to Bonnie. I just want to, credit like the master. at that. But yeah, those were just some movements that I was studying and trying to kind of copy. And then I threw in the Exorcist backbend crawl for good measure. And that haunted house was a success.
Well, that's great to hear that you were able to, have that creativity and also how you even improvise by adding some of the exorcists. I'm sure it freaked out all the little kids.
The kids too, and the parents, especially the parents.
Well, yeah. Well, but that's the beautiful thing about creativity is that it has so much power behind it. Although you're not possessed or you're not
No,
this evil monster, through art and creativity, you're able to do something which, it's not normal, but you make it available here on Earth. So I love that. So like from that experience, and then you were saying getting into like prosthetics and then monsters. What was your first like from the ring? What was like your first gig after that?
okay, so I got the next gig after that that was actually like a film set gig. I didn't get paid for, but a makeup artist named Mike Rotella or Mikey Rotella had seen me at a convention called Monster Palooza that would take place at the Marriott Convention Center in Burbank. And actually, I would cosplay as Samara there. I started to do that for fun to practice. Actually, I would kind of practice being a scare actor, just wandering around, freaking people out, doing my backbend crawls. Mikey had noticed me and he just said, "Hey, do you want to be in a short film and play a zombie?" And I thought, cool. Yeah, sign me up. That sounds like fun. So we shot in Valencia, and it was a proof of concept trailer for like a film by some Italian film student. Uh, it never got funded, but that was a fun gig nonetheless. And we were like near a dog kennel out in like the hills in Valencia, and I got to carry a fake axe and just stare creepily at the camera, and then they put fake blood in my mouth, and I had to like smile, and it was drooling all around. And I was with other zombies, and we were kind of like gathered together and just like herded like cows into a van, and we were like driving down the highway, and we would roll down the windows and like stick our arms out. So that was like my first gig. And it happened, I want to say, like maybe a year or two after I did Samara. It was really fun.
Not to put you in the hot seat, but could you reenact that crazy stare? Oh, I don't want to look at you. Don't. Okay. That was good. That was good. So that was quite the experience. Now you're in Valencia, but you said earlier that you met this person through was it in Burbank?
Monster Palooza,
Mm.
and at the time it was only in Burbank. Now they do it biannually, so once a year they'll do it still in Burbank, and then another year they take it to the Pasadena Convention Center.
So now that you got this gig, you did this like was it a trailer or what was it?
It was like a proof of concept, but they cut it like a trailer. I couldn't tell you the plot. I just knew I was a zombie. That's it. Like no one gave me a script. I literally just showed up, got makeup put on me. They gave me like a ragged dress for a costume because I was playing a little girl. And next thing I know, I'm like shooting near a dog kennel.
Okay, so from that, like in your mind, were you thinking like, "Hey, this is something that I would like to do a little bit more often," or did you see it as like, "Wow, that's like a once in a lifetime experience"?
A little bit of both. Yeah. Like to me, that felt like everything. Like I just got offered my first movie role. This is amazing. I had so much fun doing that. And I remember coming back on the phone and like talking to my cousin about it. Like, you'll never believe what I did today. It was so much fun. And then uh from there, it's like, yeah, I want to keep doing like, when's the next one? That's how it went for me.
And how did you go from that one to the next one?
Well, it took actually like a few years went by because I still decided to take more acting classes. And I actually also I was like taking a lot of classes. I took the acting, I got a certification in yoga, and then another one in health coaching. So I kind of was like collecting infinity stones of skills. Uh, for that. And then on top of that, working part to sometimes full time for a family business. So I was like pretty busy. I was still networking at Monster Palooza. I got a few close calls, like auditions that didn't really land. And that kind of side rails into the fact too that this is already a niche as it is. And I'm not one to do any gender wars or anything, but it is male dominated. And especially for more taller, leaner types. And there's a few reasons why. The first is that as a makeup artist, you want basically like an armature wire to sculpt on. So that's why they like guys like Doug Jones, who are very skinny and tall and lean, because you could literally sculpt anything on top of him. It's brilliant. I mean, that's great. And then also just there is just a preference for men. That's just the way it goes. Like they've literally cast men to play like female monster types, like this brilliant performer named Javier Bote that was in the movie Mama. Like he played Mama. That's a woman, but he has such an interesting physique because he has, I believe it's Marfan syndrome. So his body is it's really again unique the way his physicality is and his movements. But they went with him for that character. So and in Crimson Peak, which he was also in with Doug Jones, both are playing female ghosts. And again, it's movement, it's proportions, it's body types, but there does tend to be a preference for men. That there are other female performers out there, like myself. I can name it. Like, I have a friend named Nayeli who was in Face Off. She was a model on there, and she's a brilliant creature performer. There's someone else named V. Nixie. There's Andy Norris. I could go on and on, but there are other women like me out there, but most of the time it's the guys. So that was the common thing I started learning early on, ever since I did that zombie gig, was like I'd audition and they'd love me and they'd love the way I move. But at the end of the day, they would go for the taller dudes because I'm 4'9" and a woman at that. So it was very rare that I was offered any creature roles, you know, outside of like a child zombie or ghost.
And do you like the creature roles, or do you prefer to be like the little child?
I prefer the creature roles unless it is a creepy child. Like that's like my asterisk. Like if it's like a possessed child, like I'm putting it out to the universe. There's going to be a new Exorcist film. I want in on that. I it looks like that's a boy, but proportions are what matters. It doesn't matter if it's a dude. I'll shave my head like I did for Nightmare Alley. I don't care. I'll play a possessed little boy. Fine by me. So I'd love to be in that because I actually almost got to work on the one before that came out a few years ago called Exorcist Believer. That was something where the makeup team liked me, but production went with someone that was local in Atlanta and someone they knew with more experience. And it was just more for stunts and doubling, I believe. So I didn't get it, but I was really close. I was like on the razor's edge because they had like sent my information to production and everything. But hey, you win some, you lose some.
It can be a very tough and competitive business.
Yeah, but the eye opener I've had as someone who for like a hot minute was trying to like find work as a health coach and even a yoga instructor is that those fields are competitive too. If you really want to be at the top of your game, want to be in like the 1% or whatever, everything's going to be tough. Like you choose your struggle, as they say. If you want to be a doctor, like the hours are crazy, you're going to be exhausted, the tuition costs, your clinician hours, experience, like that's tough as well. Sales, that's competitive, right? Real estate. So at the end of the day, like it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah. So, this I was thinking about what you're saying about perspective, and everyone has their heart. I mean, sometimes you just got to kind of choose. But you chose kind of both, where you do have you're working in a family-owned business. You do have your yoga. You're also like a health coach.
Well, I have those certifications. I no longer work for the family business because the family business is kaput. Because if you want, I can go into the plot twist. That was 2017. That family business was gone, and I had to support myself but also the co-owner of the business, my father.
Yeah.
So we lost our house. We lost everything. I had to move in with my grandparents. My bedroom was really small, and I slept on a mattress for 3.5 years on the floor. And I was ghostwriting, copywriting, transcribing. Um, I I was also doing a little bit of virtual assistant work. I was doing whatever I could get my hands on, and I was working an average of 18-hour days with rare days off just to be able to support myself and my father, like I said. And I did that for a very long time, and it is probably the most harrowing, like point in my life to have to go through that, where you are barely making ends meet. Like I wasn't even making enough to afford rent, just how based on just how much work I was able to find and how low the pay was. And whatever money I had saved up, I was actually investing in myself. I was taking classes in motion capture or performance capture, because that's another skill I have. If you're familiar with Gollum from Lord of the Rings or Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, those CG characters were done, like, other than being animated, those are actors doing motion capture, where they are capturing your performance, your emotions, your movements, your facial expressions, if they do facial capture. I took classes for that, and I'm very fortunate to have worked with some other amazing people, to have a really cool teacher named Richard Dorton. Richard is a pro, like he's one of the best out there. He was one of 3 heads of King Ghidorah in one of the Godzilla movies that came out a few years ago. Richard has also done a lot of mocap in video games. Like I'm talking back to, like, there was a Scooby-Doo video game, and he did the mocap for Shaggy. I want to say he did the mocap for Pyramid Head in Silent Hill. Like he's the man. And I'm so grateful that Richard has gotten me work. And actually he also got me a gig that wasn't mocap. That was just me being a child zombie promoting a Walking Dead video game at the E3 convention center. So anyway, it was still a tough period of my life, just a lot of hustle, doing work that I really hated, honestly, but I had no choice but to do, because I wanted that flexibility to be able to pour back into my acting and be able to audition and take on other gigs. So yeah, that there was a lot of sacrifice there. And in some ways I feel like I'm kind of back to that point, just because of the way the industry has changed. And I'm I'm actually using my own story as inspiration. Like during that time, I could never have predicted that I was going to be back at Monster Palooza meeting a makeup artist named Mike Hill, who got me an audition for Schlitzie, or rather a version of Schlitzie, the pinhead from the movie Freaks, in Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley.
Wow. That's a lot to that's a
I'm
lot
so
to
sorry.
process.
I just like gave you a whole bunch of lore.
Yes, but it's your story, and it's worth listening to, and it's worth it's I think it's going to be part of history. I mean, at least for your life, and for people later on, hopefully listening to this, maybe even 50 years from now, we can find some inspiration.
Thank you.
Uh,
That's my hope.
because like something I see is a lot of perseverance, and I feel like sometimes it's kind of hard. And today, I mean, in every day and age, not just in 2026, but throughout all all times, people have experience. It's hard to, or maybe not persevere, or to have a little bit of hope, or like why make these sacrifices? There's no hope to be seen, but we're seeing from your story that yes, you've gone through really difficult times, and still you pushed and pushed, and that is super something that can be admired throughout time.
Thank you. Yeah, because then you mentioned hope, and this country, we're going through some darkness right now. There's a lot of chaos happening, and it's been building up for years. And especially for us who are creative, what do we do right now in the wake of so much violence happening, so much injustice? So I am actually going to talk about another origin story-ish. And this has nothing to do with creativity per se, but when I was, for a long time in my childhood to my teens, I was abused and I became suicidal. And I would have panic attacks, and I had I had multiple failed attempts. I did a lot of things that I'm not going to say here, so trigger warning. But there was one night where I had made another attempt, and I was struggling. And to calm my nerves, I was playing the audio commentary track for Pan's Labyrinth because Guillermo del Toro's voice reminded me of a lot of viejos in my family. It just calmed me, and also I really resonated with his worlds, his stories. So I was just listening to that, and I don't know what snapped in me, but I just realized, like, I wish there were more people like that in my life, like him, who understood. Because the reason why I love his movies with monsters is that as growing up in a world where being a girl, being a daughter who was abused, who felt like she had no place in anywhere in society, the only alternative to feel safe was being a monster. And while the monster helped me to survive, the monster was attacked because no one understands monsters. People fear monsters. Guillermo del Toro does not. He treats them as these saints, as these mythic figures of beauty and imperfection. And I realized lying in my bed that I want to work for that man because he's the only person I see who would understand me. So I promised myself when I was 15 that I was going to get better. I was going to face my abusers and get my freedom, and that I would work for him. I didn't know how, but I knew I would. And I did. I did just that. A little over 10 years later, I was in Toronto, freezing my ass off, playing a pinhead. My head was shaved, and I got to work with him. And I got to tell him how much his movies meant to me, that they helped save my life. And I made him cry. He gave me a big hug. And I only got to work with him one day because there were changes to the script, but I treasure that day. I am still enormously grateful for Mike Hill, for Guillermo, for our producer Miles, for having me on there, me with hardly any work to my name as an actor. They took a chance on me being there, and I'm still forever grateful. And Guillermo had told me there'll be other times we'll work together again. And there's some days where I don't believe that. There are many days I don't think I'm ever going to see him again, that I'm never going to prove myself. But if I was able to save my life at 15 and do good on my promise to work for him over 10 years later, then hell, there's got to be a chance it'll happen again. I don't know how, but I didn't know how at 15. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to go back to work on Nightmare Alley because we were shut down due to COVID. So that is my message of hope to everyone: is you just never know, but sometimes that's all you have. And don't lose that either. Even if all you can do every day is 5 minutes in the dark, saying out loud, that's what you want, that's what you know will happen, that you know you're meant for in your bones, then do that. If that's literally all you have, don't let go of that, because that is literally what's keeping you alive. So that's my message. That's my message to everyone, and that's my message to myself right now, because I've not been on a really good set in a long time. I've let alone done creature work. I'm often underestimated and just seen as this 4'9" woman with the audacity to think she could play a xenomorph. I'm often perceived that way, but I love what I do. And the one thing that's been helping me, other than remembering my story, is I'm a storyteller and I'm a creative writer. I have a Substack, and I've been working on a handful of novels, and I'm currently working on one that I've been using to kind of alchemize my own traumas, my own darkness, my own monsters, putting them into a story, and finally channeling all of these life experiences into a fantasy driven narrative. sometimes you got to do something with that creativity as an actor. If you're not on a set, what are you going to do with that? You can still create. So some actors, they make YouTube videos, they make Instagram or TikTok reels. Me, no matter what, I work with monsters. So if I'm not in a chair transforming into a creature, I still have a pen and a laptop in front of me. I can still tell a story that involves monsters in some way.
Man, that's another. It's a lot to process.
I know, I did
Yeah.
another dump. I'm so
No, but it's beautiful because it's a message of truth. It's not a script that you're reading. It's a message from your heart, and that's the heart also creates stories of truth, and they're not made up stories. They're personal stories.
yeah, yeah. It was interesting the other day. I was listening to a YouTube video, like an essay kind of criticizing um a lot of fantasy books out there, especially in that subgenre called romantasy, where they were complaining about something called self-insert characters, where they said, I don't want to know about the author in a character. And for me, I would think, depending on how it's written, I'm not one to judge, and also I've not read enough romantasy, but I would think that we are all so unique that, if anything, that makes the characters more interesting, because no two people have the same past life experience. Um, like I also really love surrealists like Frida Kahlo, although she doesn't call herself a surrealist. But what I like about Frida is that she somehow made art out of her pain, and I can feel a soul in there. I didn't have the horrific accidents that she had or those betrayals, but somehow I resonate, I connect. And that gives me something to appreciate as a human being and realize I'm not alone. And that I'm also in this long creative, uh, like legacy of storytellers, whether it's a painting or a novel or a acting performance. And it's just a passing of the torch. And I don't know if someone is going to read my stories and resonate with that or think like, oh, I'm not alone. I thought I was the only one who thought this way. If she felt that, then there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. If anything, I am more whole, because this is the human experience. Because that's the lie we're always told, is that we're broken, we're incomplete. But the more diversity we have, the more array of traumas and victories, or just going through, the daily battles, whatever, if we can identify with all of that and see that in front of ourselves in our own lives, then we could put two and two together and realize, like, this is not a curse. This is not a reflection of my character, of my worth. Then that's healing. Because that's also another thing about art, is that it's healing.
Oh, very, very powerful. For you, like when you're not doing the roles, you mentioned earlier that you do have a Substack. I had no idea
Yeah.
you had a Substack. Actually, I have Substack. I've never written anything on it. That's another, it takes time, but it sounds like you've taken time to, use this form of creativity, to write. So if someone in the audience, or even for me, I have no idea what your Substack is about. What will we discover?
Well, my Substack isn't really huge at the moment, because like a lot of my priorities are on this novel that I'm currently writing, which is funny because I like have three other ones, but this current one kind of came to me towards the end of summer, and just was a story that like gripped me by the shoulders and said, I want blood, I want tears, I want you. So it's been a leap of faith where, okay, I'm being asked to channel a lot of things that I've gone through and put it into the characters, into the setting of this story. So my time has been on that, but my Substack has like poems or personal essays. Like I actually spoke a little more about how I even got to play my character in Nightmare Alley uh, through my Substack. I think I wrote another essay on an when I was like in the seventh grade. I did like an assignment for my English class, and I basically said I want to be a Power Ranger when I grow up. But I wrote about that and how, as an adult, I'm reflecting on seventh grade me through that, and then again, just some poetry, things like that. A lot of my work does have to do with monsters because again, like that's just I love fantasy, I love creatures, and I guess I'm taking just a footnote out of Guillermo del Toro from that. I'm also a huge fan of Joseph Campbell, who, you could say he was almost like a huge influence for George Lucas because George Lucas was a student of his. And Joseph Campbell had written a book called, like, I believe, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, where he took all these world mythologies and kind of condensed them into a series of like themes. And if you've ever heard of the hero's journey, that was kind of like a map or a framework for storytelling created by Campbell. So I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell, and there you could find like on Instagram the foundation for him has like all these old clips of his lectures. That's really great. I also like really enjoyed Carl Jung to get into the psychology of that, of archetypes, and how there's a kind of like a spiritual connection to that. So I learned a bit from him and studying like alchemy and these occult symbols as well, and storytelling, other mythologies. It's like a mishmash, but I'm informed by that because that's actually been helpful for me as someone who has gone through a lot of terrible things in their lives to be able, as a storyteller, to kind of find archetypal themes, symbols, to make sense of everything and realize there's actually a story here, that there might be a legend that's very similar to what I've gone through. And that I, as a storyteller, have the power to kind of chart what happens next, not only in whatever I write, for fiction, but also in my life.
Well, uh, you mentioned just a moment ago that, you know, although you're very creative, you're starting a new stem of creativity, and that's writing. And you're doing a hell of a lot of writing. You're doing the poetry, the essays. Did you say three novels?
Yeah, I have like three novels on the back burner that I've been, because the thing too is that in between acting, I would kind of like work on them. But again, all my focus was on the acting. And then, of course, any day job I needed to fulfill just to survive. So, another lesson I learned was that I was abandoning myself by ignoring that side of me that was a writer
Mm.
because I was just putting everything into the acting, everything into copywriting, ghostwriting for other people, but rarely did I just write for me. Um, because like I wasn't being chosen by Hollywood, I wasn't getting the roles that I wanted, and I would just, keep pushing for that. And while I'm not ever going to stop that, I wouldn't I wouldn't recover with creativity. I would recover with just I'm going to work out, which is not bad, but like I'm just going to work out or I'm going to meditate, talk to friends, have a good cry, whatever. But rarely did I ever write, because when I do write, it's very healing. I do feel like I'm in control in a way. I get to write characters that I would love to play. So uh, I realized like, okay, no more abandoning yourself. Go and write your story. So I have like three other novels that I again are on the back burner that I tend to, but one of them is inspired by the creature from the Black Lagoon. Another one has to do with dragons and necromancers. And then another one is like a medieval story that talks about things like death, and it takes place during the bubonic plague. And then now I have this current story that I'm writing that's very much inspired by Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell and has to deal with what's called a catabasis, or a journey into the underworld, because it felt like I kind of got initiated into that in the summer with a big life crisis occurred that I still don't know what's going to happen due to it. There's a lot of uncertainty in my life, but the one thing that my gut, my intuition is telling me to do is write this story. Just focus on that. Do what you can to survive. Do what you can if you ever see an opportunity for creature work, but write your story. It's time. So that's currently the kind of like state of the writing union for me.
And do you see yourself already recording the audiobook?
It's funny. I think I on my Instagram, I read excerpts from another novel recently, and some people had DM'd me and said like, "You have a really nice voice." So maybe I'll record an audiobook for that. Who knows if anyone's interested? Like, I haven't shared anything about the one that I'm writing as it were right now. I'm actually outlining, but for me, outlining is like doing a very massive scaled summary. So I'm up to like 82 pages uh with this outline. Thanks. Um of material here. I've got like two friends telling me like, "Oh yeah, send it to me when you're done." And I'm like, "You really have time to read over 82 pages?" So we'll see.
Well, best of luck when that book does come out. Hit me up so we can. I want to share it to people.
Thank
I,
you.
I want to read it too. Now I'm like, shit, what's this book about? Like I want to check it out.
Yeah, like think underworld themes, but not like just Greek mythology stuff. Like I'm talking like it's if I could talk about like the themes, think of like Silent Hill, where like the monsters and everything are based off of your psychology and being tested, and using a lot of old folklore themes in there about like you're literally dragged to another world and that you've been promised to another being, and what is your definition of purpose actually, what is light and what is dark, like these polarities here, and what happens when you merge them together. A lot of healing for me kind of finding a way to honor parts of my past that I used to be ashamed of. Like I had to surrender my cat a couple years ago now, and I miss my cat so much. And he was already old. He had hyperthyroid, and he got put down. And I feel bad because I just couldn't afford to take care of him, and I couldn't give him the environment he needed to thrive. So I found a way to honor him in this story. In a way, he has like a little cameo appearance during a major scene where the character has to step away from this pattern she had, which was making a shrine or this devotional practice to her suffering, that she got caught all her life just being addicted to think about all the horrible things that happened to her, because that's with me, just thinking about all the shit that happened, that they were cruel, they were unfair, but that was all I was caught in. And I realized like I made a religion out of that. I wasn't seeing the light, I wasn't overcoming that. So this character has to learn how to put all of that down and let go. And one of the things that she lets go is her cat, or her kitty boy, as I used to call him, my little fur baby. So it's a very personal story, and kind of how I mentioned earlier, where people said, "Well, I don't want to read about a self insert," and I just felt like, well, if you look close enough, all authors put some form of themselves to varying degrees, some more overt than others, but that's us being human. I mean, gosh, Guillermo talks about how much he likes to explore the father-son dynamics, and he keeps repeating that in his movies, down to the first one with Kronos, albeit that is a grandfather and a granddaughter, but there's always something about that grandfather or father relationship, and it echoes into Blade 2, into Hellboy. Then you've got Pinocchio and even Nightmare Alley and Frankenstein as of late. Like there's just certain things we keep revisiting and refining and healing within ourselves.
Well, for you, like, do you have a favorite like creature or monster in cinema? And it doesn't only have to be from Guillermo, but like, or your top characters, monsters,
Um,
creatures.
I love xenomorphs, alien, those creatures. I just love them. There's something about that HR Giger design where I believe it's called like biotechnology or biomechanical design. There's something about it where it's a very elegant but also sinister, and the insect like or like parasitic biology of them. They're not just like a regular boogeyman. There's actually like a life cycle to them. There's a purpose. It's very like this perversion of the human body, and then that echo of like our over reliance on technology as well, in a way, if you wanted to like, I don't know, dig deep into certain themes in there. So I love xenomorphs. I'd love to play them. If we're just talking about strictly movies, then yeah, I love anything aquatic. So like the gill man from Creature from the Black Lagoon down to Abe Sapien and the river god in The Shape of Water. I love those. I love dragons. Those are like my spirit animal. My everyone has guardian angels. I have guardian dragons. So love dragons. Like the movie Dragonheart. Draco. I love that one. Dragon Slayer. Vermithrax pejorative. She's a gorgeous dragon animated by this artist named Phil Tippett. I just love dragons. Okay, so dragons, xenomorph, fish people. Um, Outside of that, that hasn't been filmed yet. It might be filmed, but there's a video game called Bendy and the Ink Machine, and there's a creature called the Ink Demon, and it's this devilish looking thing, and it's almost xenomorph like because it has no eyes. It just has these horns on its head, and especially in the second game, the way they designed it, you just see like this smile, like this grinning mouth, no eyes, and the horns. And I love to just try to like imitate how it walks and play around with the voice. I have a thing for that with creatures. So anything kind of elegant but very like malevolent is something that I vibe with.
Okay, so right. So my next question is, do you have a favorite movie?
That's hard because it depends on my mood, but like I can't pick one. Like that question where they say if you were stranded on a desert island, you could eat one thing, and it's like that's not really
Realistic.
I love Pan's Labyrinth, obviously, but I also love this movie called The Fall. And it that one's it's probably like the most beautiful movie I think that's ever been shot. I love that. I love Fantasia, the original Fantasia. I really like Martin Scorsese's The Aviator, and I can quote that movie like it's not a quotable movie, like Star Wars. It's not at all. But for some reason, I can quote Aviator all the time. Don't know why. I just really love that movie. I could talk, like, I could give a whole lecture on why I like it. That's one of them. Let's see, I love those. I love yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon, obviously. I love Death at a Funeral. It's a hilarious movie. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I I love Cinema Paradiso. That's a really good movie. Another movie called Life is Beautiful. That's a good one. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That's a like live action Disney movie. Oh, I love that one too. I love the Ray Harryhausen movies, the stop motion animation, like Clash of the Titans. As a kid, I and still am, but I like a mythologist. I love Greek mythology, and even though the mythology is not accurate, I still love Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts. So I can't pick one. I cannot.
Well, I feel like people in the audience, if you have a week where you're like, shit, I got nothing to do, just listen to this podcast and write down all the movies that she mentioned. That you have like a list of movies to watch during your week because you mentioned a lot of good movies, and I haven't watched all of those movies, even like the lagoon, the monster. What was it?
Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like
I've seen clips like on I think back in the day, like when I think back in the day they would show it either on KTLA or on UPN. I don't know if UPN still
oh
exists.
wow, that's taking me back.
So I think I'd see like little clips as a kid, but I'd be like boring, change the channel, watch the regular game.
Boring.
That
No.
was a little Ryan Seattle back in the day. But these are some good movies that you recommended. So like it's totally worth, for those who haven't seen those movies, go check it out. With The Aviator, I absolutely loved Kate Blanchett. Damn, I can't say her last name.
Kate Blanchett.
Blanchett. I loved her acting, and she was also great in Nightmare Alley.
Mhm.
She's just a fantastic acting. I love her.
Gosh, oh yeah, and then like I can't pick one of his movies, but you put Willem Dafoe in anything, and I love it. It's like incrementally better. Like I keep forgetting he'll pop up in movies like American Psycho, and it's like, oh yeah, you're in here. This got better, and I'm sad because my character did have at least a scene with him in Nightmare Alley, but then it got cut out of the script, and I was robbed of working with him. Like I don't know. I just brilliant actor. I mentioned that okay, if dragons are my spirit animals and like guardian protectors, my human spirit animal is Willem Dafoe. I don't know why. If you look at like all his poses, like when he's modeling, they're hilarious. I've like recreated two of them, and now I have like a weird mission to like someday try to like redo all of his modeling poses.
Well, something I like about him is not, I mean, he's a great actor, but I think his face is like so flexible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a, I don't know, like clay, where he's just, I can't do it, but he has something just so special about his. That
Yeah,
sounds
like
awkward, but
no, it's true. Like I think someone there's like a meme where that scene in Spider-Man where his character Norman like he like gets cut loose or whatever or let go. They said like if you were to like freeze frame that scene, he went through all the stages of grief just on his face. And then I forgot he was in the Aviator. That's
he was
what I
in the
mean.
Aviator too.
He was in the Aviator.
Oh
Yeah.
shit!
He shows up like the middle or towards the end, after, Howard Hughes' character breaks up with Katharine Hepburn and he finds out that, oh, she was having an affair with Spencer Tracy, who's married, and that like like the tabloids got the picture. So Willem Dafoe's character is a photographer. And, Leonardo
Mm.
DiCaprio played Howard Hughes and he's like bargaining, like, no, I'll give you like stock in my, airplane company if you give me the photos. And, Willem Dafoe's just like, not for sale, Howard. Like that
So,
was such a good scene. I forgot he shows up in the Aviator.
so you totally can quote the whole entire movie.
Oh, so many. Way to the future, way to the future. Show me the blueprints. Show me the blueprints. I can go on and on. Like there's like stupid stuff that make no sense. Someone will be talking to me like about like should I buy that expensive coffee? Your money. That's a quote from the Aviator. It's just like all these stupid things that quote from the movie. It's so good at the same time.
So your scene with William,
Willem
excuse me, with the
Dafoe.
foe was scrapped. But did you get to meet him?
No, it was COVID. We had to shelter in place.
Um,
I lived in a condo most of the time. I was there for no, not almost. I was there for 3 months. And, it was COVID. Like, I'm talking 2020. This is the height of the pandemic. And in Toronto, the city had already gone through like multiple shutdowns. So unless I was summoned to set, I couldn't go and just drop by and say hi to Willem Dafoe. I had to just watch like The Godfather Part 3 in my condo and just kind of like twiddle my thumbs and hope I'll get summoned when it's not raining or something.
that would have been nice, that, I mean, maybe one day, who knows? I mean, that's
I hope.
the universe.
Oh, you never know. I'd love to though, because with all that silliness aside, like I totally respect Willem Dafoe. He's probably my favorite working actor out there.
So my next question is, when you do watch movies and you're twiddling your thumbs watching, what movie did you watch? Godfather 3. Do you have a favorite movie snack?
No, I'm usually just having water, whatever. I'm so engrossed in what's in front of me. Like I just want to focus on that. That or if it's late, then I'll probably eat dinner in front of the screen. But like I don't really have like a go-to snack per se. Because like I said, I'm just studying everything and enjoying the movie.
And before you get into a role, I mean, I love food. I love food. I love tacos. I love nachos. I love burritos. I love all that good stuff. But for you, like before you get in a role, like, do you have like a ritual or like a warm up, like any techniques before
Hmm.
pressing record or before you do that play?
Well, it depends. So again, it all depends. Like if it's a creature thing, I would love to know what it is. If I don't, um, like for instance, I model a lot. I model a lot specifically for special effects makeup schools, and a lot of times I don't know what the heck I'm going to be playing. I find out literally the morning I show up and sit in the chair, and I have hours to figure out who my character is, and that is why I'm grateful for my background, not only as an actor, but also someone who wanted to pursue concept design because I can look at the makeup, at the silhouette, and kind of break down the movements, the gestalt, like they're posing. I kind of have to give myself as much backstory as I can in my head. And that's where the storyteller comes in, the writer. So I create like a whole biography while I'm in the chair. And I'm talking like 3 hours, 4 hours, sometimes longer. I have time to figure out who this character is. And I also get to collaborate with the artist. So I get to ask, like, like, what do you think their history is? Or even something technical, like, does the makeup buckle or like crease at a certain way? And should I avoid making a certain expression? Should I not go like, should I not do that face? Should I not go? I need to figure out what I am allowed to do and what I ideally should not do to maintain the illusion that this is an actual creature and not a person wearing all these prosthetics. So there's that. When I get a script, though, I break it down. So I just do a first read and I get an impression. And then I do another read and I take notes and I do my actor's homework, like something that I think is really cool that Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger, had said is some useful information is to find out what other characters say about you, whatever you're playing. That's feedback. So I do little things like that. I take notes, and then obviously, depending on the role in the production, I end up having a meeting with the director, sometimes the writers, and then the producers, and maybe a stunt coordinator. And I just start getting all this feedback. And then, especially if I have a makeup effects artist working on me, they have their own information as well. So it's a process. I have my own take, I have my own pieces that I bring, and then someone else brings more pieces to the puzzle, and then another person, and then suddenly it really becomes a village. It takes a village to raise this character from the ground up, from just the script to something concrete and living and breathing.
And with your, that same question about, preparation, do you have also any like preparation or techniques before you sit down to write your novel?
Well, actually, I was going to mention that's another ritual I do that works for novels as well, because I use the word channel, like I kind of get into the energy or the emotions of something. Music, and that's something that I learned is really what ancient shamans kind of did, that they would get into an altered state, like with the mantra or word or a beat of the drum and over, like repetition. I don't know if it's a neurodivergent thing. I've not been diagnosed as that, but I've been told that that's something that people with autism have, where they play the same song on repeat. For me, it's getting into that character, like literally slipping into another identity, playing the same song or a series of songs that capture the essence of whatever I'm going for, whether it's a character or a scene I'm writing from a story.
What song would you play over and over?
It depends. I tailor it to whatever I'm doing. So recently I was writing a scene like from my book, and there was like one theme from a video game called Slay the Princess, and it's just like a piano theme, but for something about the chords in that instrumental that helped me get into the energy of that theme or that story. So I kept playing it over and over and over. And then I found someone on YouTube had like a 15-minute version of it. So I didn't have to refresh my phone every 2 minutes. So I would play the 15-minute version and just keep writing. If it's a character, though, I may have a playlist. So like I made a playlist for a character that maybe one day they'll be resurrected because we lost funding. But I made a playlist for one creature role I was going to play, and that was very informative. And I would play that playlist every morning for almost 2 years, because the SAG strikes hit us as well as the writer strikes. That happened and we were delayed. But yeah, I mean, that was like my religion. I went all in on this character with the playlist and reading the script and talking to the director and then physically training for it.
Okay, and then you mentioned earlier about like the shamans and how like the channeling, like with the music and the beats. I'm bringing this up because in your creative path, in this podcast, we're all about getting to explore your creativity. Your creativity is just going up and up and up and up, starting from like very young age, and you're just you already are like a bit immersed in bits and pieces here and there. But now I'm curious, how do you see yourself evolving? And to be honest, like going back to music, do you see yourself making your own music?
I don't know. I mean, I've got a musician friend who says I have a good voice, so maybe. I mean, I love to sing. For like a couple years in my teens, my late teens, I was seeing a vocal coach because I had this really audacious dream where I'm gonna, bring things full circle with Phantom of the Opera. I said, I want to be in Phantom, and the last day I perform, I'm not gonna go with Raul. I'm gonna go with the Phantom. Again, I was 18. People, I didn't, not a healthy relationship, obviously, with either of them though, but still, no. But either way, 18-year-old me had that master plan. She was gonna do something that totally would not happen at all on Broadway, but I took vocal lessons and I was singing, and I don't always like to share my voice, but I've been encouraged to. So we'll see.
We'll see, we'll see. But for sure, your creativity is just out there, and hopefully, it can be seen by more people. So thank you for sharing your whole creative journey. Also about your book. Quick question about your book, because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's you put a lot of thought. There's a bit of like psychology. You mentioned Carl Jung. Would could you see this book? Maybe, of course, it will be out one day when it is out and it's being read by people, could you see it as a Netflix series, a TV series, a movie, or maybe a video game, or all three?
It could be a movie. It could be a series. A video game would be interesting because the character has to go through six trials, and that is in part inspired by this Mesopotamian myth of Inanna, who was this goddess who descended into the underworld, and she had to go through these different gates and strip away, like literally strip away, like a part of herself, like her crown, her jewels, her dress, until there was nothing but her. And well, it got kind of grim where she was literally killed. They put her on a meat hook at the end of it, and some I don't want to spoil it. It's a good myth, but I was partly inspired by that. And there's other versions of like, oh, you have the 12 labors of Heracles, or you have some character that has to go through these trials, and I put a version of that in the story. So that could totally be a video game too. But I don't know. For now, I'm letting it breathe and just be a book, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see. And do you have any published date, like a deadline, or not a deadline, but like a date for the
No,
release?
not yet. No, I'm literally in the thick of it, writing it. I don't know if I should be sharing any like
Like
parts of it yet. Like I don't know if I should have like a password on my website because I use Wix, and I remember there's a part of it where you could put a password, and whoever has the password can like unlock a page. And I don't know if I should do something like that. So I know that the right people are looking at it for the preview. I don't know if I should start a Patreon where like I share a chapter every month and people can get like a look at like the rough drafts. I'm not sure yet.
Well, we'll see. I'll be supporting regardless, whatever you do.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and now for like to kind of like start wrapping this up, I have just a couple questions. One of them is, are there any upcoming artists or creatives out there that you suggest we keep an eye out for?
Um, I I don't know about like upcoming per se. I'm just gonna like give a shout out to my friends. So my musician friend, Matthew Babinu, he goes by Z Bob's Music on Instagram. I can DM you so that way you'll know how to link him. So I have my friend Matthew, and then as far as like special effects makeup goes, I have my friends Ana Esquivel. I have her. I have my friend Ashley Beach. And then also I have my creature actor friend Nayeli. And again, I can send you their Instagram accounts. I just want to support my friends.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing about other creatives, because I think, creativity, it's so electric. It's like an energy, and it's in the time in this world where there's just so much like dark energy. I think creativity can be used as kind of the opposite. So
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I learned and what I put in this story is that, you know, there's light out there. Yeah. There's some people who are just naturally like the sun. And then there are other people who learn to glow in the dark.
nice. I like that. And that I think that can be like a quote, like if maybe like later on, like there's like a picture of you and
Mhm.
that quote. That
I
was
did a version
beautiful.
of that. I did, but like that's something I've learned because I've been through so much darkness and I feel like we all are right now. And sometimes maybe it takes that darkness for us to find our own light, to literally glow in the dark and realize that there's a bunch of stars out there and that we're all part of that big Milky Way. I'm sure there's a more eloquent way of saying that, but that's just me talking.
Yeah. Uh, and on my concluding question is, Samantha, why is creativity important for you?
Because we would all be nothing more than machines, just facts and logic and everything being up in our head. And sure, that's fine, but we've seen that with like insurance. Like literally, I was on the phone today wrestling with insurance, so I know it's just codes and then assessments and criteria. Everything is lined up in order, but it's the creativity, it's the heart-centered space that creates empathy, that creates actually like new things, like new inventions that could save lives, ironically, that the insurance is going to have to serve. Like it's also like, why breathe? I think creativity, and I know that there have been experts talking about that. Creativity is not just about painting or writing or sculpting or composing. Creativity can also literally be the way you think, come up with new solutions, spontaneously be inspired to start a podcast. It's creativity is not just art, it's many things.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your love for creativity and also for sharing all of your awesome roles and how creativity has just evolved throughout your life. Where can people in the audience check out some of your work?
Okay, so on Instagram, my page or my handle is called S Rodes 13. So that's SRODES 13. The 13 is just because I like the number. And then my Instagram does have like my bio there, so you can like click the link in my bio and you'll find my actor's website and my Substack. If you're not on Instagram, just search Samantha Rodes Substack and you'll find me there. My Substack literally says Samantha Rodes.
All right, Samantha. Well, thank you so much for sharing your love for creativity. And to the audience, go to her Instagram. Go check out Samantha. And if you don't have Instagram, then go check out on your web browser. You can still go and check it out from there, I believe. Or just go to her Substack, check it out. And uh, please, if you enjoyed this episode, well, I hope you did enjoy this episode. Please feel free to give a like if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this over on Spotify, please give some reviews or even leave a comment, say hello. And you can also help out. You can help me out a little bit if you would like. You can help me out a little bit more by buying me a coffee because I could always use a little bit of caffeine to keep me going. You can do that by going to buymeacoffee.com/truth that H7. All of your help helps me to keep this podcast going, helps me to keep the Zoom and to keep like app software so I can like get these episodes out there faster. So I'd appreciate all of the help. Anything helps. Anyways, with that being said, again, Samantha, thank you so much for being an awesome guest, a badass guest
Thank you.
here on Creativity Worth Expressing.
Thank you so much. And again, I hope we all learn how to glow in the dark together.